isn't pretty, but I think it's working. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Blessed are you, O Lord, ruler of the universe. Makes my hands and feet your hands and feet, my eyes and ears your eyes and ears, my mouth and tongue your mouth and tongue. Makes my heart like your heart, my mind like your mind, my thoughts like your thoughts, and my ways like your ways, and fills us with your spirit, that we may bear your image and your likeness. For our desire is to know you and be known by you. Thank you for all you've done, all you've It's taking a moment to take you in. It's really important to be taken in a world where it's hard to see one another. It's hard to know what people are thinking. We got these big masks on a lot of time. We don't know by people's facial expressions what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Circumstances of what we found ourselves in cause us to even fear each other. Get the opportunity for you to see. Still human. Still human. So I was really excited to be able to get the opportunity to come and speak here. I haven't gotten to preach very much, or I haven't gotten to preach very often because I'm not the pastor of the congregation. When I was in Colorado, I pastored a church, and so I got to preach at least twice a month. I was up there, and that felt good. It feels good when you're someone who likes to preach, right? To get up and speak, to prepare a sermon, to think about what God is trying to say to you and what God might be trying to say to the people at this particular time. So when Pastor Tim asked me, I was rejoicing. Because I don't get to do this very often, so thank you. And that's the title of my sermon. The title of my sermon is Rejoice. Shouldn't be very surprising to folks, as we're in the time of year, and particularly the time of Advent, when rejoicing and joy is supposed to be at the forefront. Before we get into the idea of rejoicing, I can't help but to mention the contradiction of the act that is being put upon us at this particular time. And the contradiction of what it meant for the people of the time in which Yeshua, who I know him to be, let me just say a moment about that. Yeshua is Jesus' Hebrew name. I use that as a recognition and as a reminder to myself that he was Jewish. So because of that, I use that as a reminder to keep at the forefront of our minds who the person is and where he was, what he was doing. So Yeshua at this particular time is getting ready to come into a world that is in turmoil. He's getting ready to come into a world that is being overtaken by a Roman Empire that was not known for its grace and its mercy. It was not known for structures that were to uplift people, but was known for its structures to oppress people. He was coming into a hard time, not an easy time. It reminds me a lot of the experiences that we're having even today. But I think of all of the countless lives that we've lost to COVID-19, to people that many of us know, that have touched, that have grown to love, that have grown accustomed to knowing and being and seeing on a regular basis are no longer with us because of this terrible sickness. I look around me and I see racial violence and racial oppression around us all the time. Even in this city, I see unemployment rising. People's ability to get into housing is shrinking more and more. We have, as the Bible refers to, wars and rumors of wars, hunger, disease, and hardship. And yet, we are called in this particular time to rejoice. Just like the people of Yeshua's day were called to rejoice at the height of their oppression. Why in the world would I do something like that? So the first question I have to ask myself, and I want to pose to you all, is what does it actually mean to rejoice? What do the authors mean in Zephaniah and in Philippians? What do they mean about rejoicing? So the simple definition of rejoicing is to feel joy or great delight. That seems both easy and hard, doesn't it? In a time like this. There's another definition that I like better. It's in some of the dictionaries that I was reading, it says the archaic or the old, the ancient terminology, which is probably more likely to what folks might have meant at this particular time. It literally says to give joy to. I'll say that again. So not so much you being joyful, but to offer joy to others. That's a really powerful statement in this particular time, because that is essentially what Yeshua came to do. He wasn't necessarily joyful to be here. He came to bring joy to us and then ask us to do the same. So, what are the reasons then for us to offer joy to others? And I'm going to go one step further. What does joy look like when we offer it? So I'm going to go through the three kind of thought processes of why we celebrate Advent. What are we thinking about when we celebrate Advent? And the way I come to understand that is, first and foremost, that Yeshua came the first time. Father, to come down here with us to experience what we experience and to proclaim good news, to proclaim something to rejoice about. So
scripture that I want to just kind of just bring to the forefront is what was that good news? And in Luke chapter 4, verse 18 and 19, it says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. This is Yeshua speaking. Because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. What is that good news? He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Freedom. That word for me means a lot. Has a lot of weight, and also has a lot of yearning connected to it. Another word you'll hear me say is liberation. It means the same thing to me. It says that Yeshua came to proclaim that. That's something to rejoice about. I know I want to be free. Do you? And so there is both, I believe, a way that this is being talked about that is spiritual, right? We all need to be spiritually free. We need to be mentally free. And all of us need to be physically free. And Yeshua comes and proclaims this. And one of the ways in which I love the last proclamation, the year of the Lord's favor, because the year of the Lord's favor is another way that we talk about this is the year of the Jubilee. And in the Hebrew scriptures, or many of you all refer to the Old Testament, the year of the Jubilee was when everything got forgiven. Meaning if you had $100,000 student debt, that was wiped clean. Lord knows, me and Sakaria, we wished that we had that when we were paying off student loans. If you have a debt, a medical bill debt that you can't pay off, and you've been paying on it, year of the Jubilee meant it was wiped out. You had a mortgage, that was wiped out. Everything got set right. Doesn't that sound beautiful? I would like to live in a world like that. That was the governmental structure of the Israelites in ancient Israel. And Yeshua is coming to declare that to people who are oppressed by another empire. That is something to rejoice about. So the first is that one thing that we have to rejoice about is that Yeshua came and proclaimed that we would all be, and that we all should be liberated. That we all should be free. Now that should be a Christian message we should be practicing on a regular basis. How are we continually setting people free? When I think about William Allen, for example, a man who has spent years in prison, committing a crime that he should have been held accountable for, but also sitting in the crime that he did not do. Being held accountable to something he did not do while also serving the sentence of something that he did do. Something needs to be set right. And we have a perfect example of what we're called to do in our Messiah issue. So, the first is we rejoice that we have a Messiah to look to in our first advent. The second is that we also now get to accept the spirit of Yeshua, his message, his ideology, his thinking, and his literal proclamation of liberation over us into our hearts. The second message of Advent. There is an Advent that came, there is an Advent that is ever present, and there is an Advent to come. So, the Advent that is ever present inside us, we accept. And what we're actually accepting is we're accepting a mantle. We're accepting an ideology. We are accepting a practice. We are accepting something more than just a name. A whole way of life. The scripture that I want to share with you all as it relates to that is John 14:12. Very truly I tell you, this is Yeshua speaking again. Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. I don't know if y'all read the scriptures. I'm assuming that we all have here, or I've heard stories of it. Yeshua performed some miracles. He wasn't just talking a big game. He went out and started healing people. He literally was giving sight to the blind. He was literally working on ways to set people free. The messages that he spoke were speaking to the hearts of not just the oppressed, but the oppressor. And was moving people into a direction of a way of life that was about liberation and freedom in God. And he promises us that we'll do greater things than that. We're talking about a man that literally flipped the world upside down in the short time he was here. The question I ask is, what are we doing? Maybe you all know this, maybe you don't. This church was a founding member of Brockton, Interfaith. An organization that has made it very clear to the world that they are about people's liberation. That they are about setting people free, and that they are going to do it in the name of their faith. You all started that organization. This church. I'm here to call you into yourselves. We need you. We need you now more than ever. We need your minds. We need your hearts. We need your thinking. We need your faith. We need your power. We need your very bodies. It is in the practice of being in and amongst community fighting for liberation for all people. It is in that practice that we're following a long line of people of God that started in the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures, and that we see very powerfully in our Lord and Savior, Yeshua. We need people like William Allen to be set free. People like Jamie Resendi, who has been spending the last 15 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, and that he legally was acquitted for, and still was not released after his acquittal. We have countless stories of people who are being arrested for things that they did not do, and then are not being released when they correct the wrong. We have countless stories of people who aren't free to live in houses so that they can feel safe with their families. Who aren't free to get jobs where they make living wages so that they can feed and take care of their families without having to rely on public assistance. It's not that people can't do these things. We just haven't created the systems and structures that allow them to. And we need you. Because for some reason, when the people of God get together, everything else has to stop and listen. For some reason, when we get clear about what we're going to do, and we put all of our might and all of our time and all of our prayers and our tears into it, things change. And we have countless examples of this throughout United States history and throughout our Earth's history. The question I ask you all is, will you give people something to rejoice in? You have the power. Go ask.
but certainly not the least reason why we have to celebrate, why we have to rejoice, why we have to offer rejoicing opportunities for others, is that we know that this isn't the end. Our Bible teaches us that in Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 4, that the Revelator, John the Revelator saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. There was no longer any sea. He says, I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people. And he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. That sounds beautiful. It says he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. The spirit of liberation is ever present in us, and it is also a thing that is to come. A second advent, a moment in time when the world as we know it now no longer exists, and the world as it should be becomes ever present in our lives. And so I say, rejoice.